Welcome to the party. I'm Sam Ekstrom of Locked On Sports Minnesota. Anthony Edwards on Team USA. How's he looking? And we've got a live report from Vegas on the Wolves Summer League coming up on the Minnesota Basketball Party.
This is Locked On Sports Minnesota podcast. It's endless Minnesota Timberwolves talk with the diverse voices of your local experts. It's time for the Minnesota Basketball Party on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Wolves talk every Wednesday here on Locked On Sports Minnesota. It's the Minnesota Basketball Party, talking Timberwolves with a panel of experts. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making us your first listen today. For your second listen, check out Ben Beacon, Locked On Wolves. You can find our show's audio on the Locked On Wolves podcast feed, wherever you get your podcasts. And please subscribe to the Locked On Sports Minnesota YouTube channel. Anthony Edwards, Team USA. They are 2 exhibitions in with a game against Serbia today. How's Ant looking now that he's in the starting lineup for Team USA? We've also got Summer League action. Andrew Dukowitz is back with us from Vegas. He'll be reporting on what he's observed in the Summer League with the Wolves rookies taking center stage. And I've got some FanDuel prop bets that are pretty intriguing about some key Timberwolves. Today's show is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. We've got a full panel of experts today, including Ron on location. Let's meet everybody with our opening tip.
I'm Ron Johnson, Gophers Hall of Famer, former Gophers wide receiver, host of the Ron Johnson Show. And I want to talk about why these old dudes be hating on the rookies. And then Jack Borman gave me some secrets about something some of these vets be doing. And then they act hard on their podcast. So we'll talk about that.
I'm Jack Borman, former editor-in-chief of Canasupis, co-host of the Locked On Wolves postcast with my man Luke Inman. And I'm going to be talking a little bit about why I think that the in-season tournament grouping is set up pretty nicely for the Timberwolves to potentially hang a banner in Target Center.
I'm Andrew Dukowitz, beat reporter for Zone Coverage, and I'm here to tell people why we shouldn't be worried about Rob Dillingham.
I'm Reggie Wilson, sports director at Care 11, and if they hang that banner at Target Center, I don't want to hear Ron Johnson's mouth.
And I'm Sam Ekstrom, executive producer here at Locked On Sports Minnesota. I'm the point guard for this collection, trying to pass the ball around and get some hot takes, and we look at Anthony Edwards with Team USA. That's where we begin. Edwards started off the bench against Canada. He provided a spark, scored 13 points. They win that game. Ant brought him back in it early after they fell behind. And then they take on Australia. Ant in the starting lineup, plays the team high 27 minutes, scores 14 as Team USA goes 2-0 in exhibition play. Ron Johnson took one game for Ant to get in the starting lineup. And tough to say there's too many guys that have looked better than Ant in the early going with Team USA. I think that our hunch, Ron, that he's the top dog could be correct.
Yeah, I mean, come on now. Ant told Kerr a long time ago, ain't no Kobe on this team. Like, Anthony Edwards showed why. And I do like the LeBron, Anthony Edwards, Steph Curry, Jason Tatum, Joel Embiid. I like that 5. I think that's a competitive 5. If Joel Embiid can stay healthy, I think Anthony Davis coming in to be the additional guy to get Tatum out or to get Embiid out. I like that. But Anthony Edwards, I mean, I saw a couple clips of some early shots, early on, knocking down threes. The spacing of the floor in the international game, I think, is really going to play to his game because the internationals, they spread it out. It's a spread out. The lane is wider as well, so guys can't pack the lane. So if he gets a step by a guy, it's going to be poster time. Let's just not hurt in those fingers. But I love Anthony Edwards in the starting lineup because, one, he's having – I don't know if you guys saw the swimming clip. They said, can anybody on the team beat you in swimming? And he went through like most of the team telling, nah, Giroux, he's going to drown. I don't think Jason Tatum can even swim. D Book probably can't swim. Embiid's going to drown. LeBron's too old. AD's too old. Like, this guy and KD can't swim. Like, his hair was stopping him anyway because we don't know if that's his hair, if that's grass, what that is. But I will say Anthony Edwards is going to be a star for the USA. I was going to put it on today. I bought a Team USA hat yesterday at the Nike store. but I didn't bring it out here because it doesn't match my Gopher shirt. But I do have a Team USA hat because I'm excited to watch this team play. But Anthony Edwards is a star. He's going to be a star.
Yeah, he could be the star of the Olympics, and then we got the Netflix show coming out. It sounds like they went all access on Edwards and a handful of other stars, and the rumor is from Shams that Anthony Edwards is going to win that show too. He could be the star of the offseason. Jack Borman, what have you seen from Team USA?
Yeah, I've been really pleased with the way that Ant's kind of stepped up and been that go-to guy on the perimeter. I think when you look at all the other options out there, I think it's pretty clear that LeBron wants to be more of a creator, playmaker than a scorer. I think Steph Curry, when when the lights come on in the Olympics, he's going to be the go-to guy on the perimeter. But beyond Steph Curry, Anthony Edwards has been right there, number one. And I think a really important part of that is not just the way that he plays on the floor, the role that he plays, as a basketball player, but it's also as a personality too. I think that, we've already seen KD talk a little bit about how he's really gravitated towards Ant, and some of the other guys in the team have really gravitated towards Ant as well. And I think that certainly matters because, I think it's pretty hard to be an emotional leader of a team if you're not a point guard or you're not the number one guy. And, or you're not, a veteran that's seen it all, kind of like Mike Conley. But yeah, I think the way that Ant has just stepped up into that role, because it was pretty uncertain coming in here. I think it's pretty easy to say, oh, well, it could be KD. Well, okay, look at how KD led teams have done since he left Golden State. You could look at LeBron, certainly, for sure. I think everybody would look to him, but outside of that, there's not really, the guy. I mean, I don't think people would really look at Devin Booker as a super, gravitating personality or guy that they really want to follow. And Drew Holiday is more of a defensive guy. So yeah, I think Ant's been tremendous, and so it's been fun to see him really kind of grab that leadership role as well as a personality. But the other guy that's really stood out to me for Team USA has been Anthony Davis. I think that his athleticism and his ability to play above the rim on both ends of the floor has been awesome. His rim protection has been absolutely insane. And I've just been really pleased with the way that he's battled on the offensive glass. I think those two guys, Ant and Anthony Davis, have been the big two standouts for me throughout. And I'm really excited to see those two guys play. And we don't need to talk about Joel Embiid, but man, if Anthony Davis is not closing games in the Olympics, we're gonna have some problems.
Yeah, the political climate of trying to balance these guys' expectations and egos, that's the real coaching job here for Team USA. Andrew Dukowitz with his zone coverage. We call him the Duke. He's in Vegas, walking 25,000 steps a day because that's what you do in Vegas. Have you had time to peek on Team USA amidst your summer league coverage?
Yeah, I caught up on it. I kind of agree with everything Ron and Jack said. And, Ron and I were talking about it last week of Ant beat all these guys, so he should be in the starting lineup. I mean, I didn't really understand the Devin Booker thing unless it was, as you said, like a political thing of, Booker's been on Team USA before. Let's give him the first try. But I think what really stands out to me is that Anthony Edwards is being the leader on this team, being the best player on this team. And this team has pretty much every relevant player in the NBA. I mean, LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Jason Tatum, Devin Booker, Embiid, pretty much every U.S. player that is relevant in the NBA is on this team. And we can say that Anthony Edwards is kind of the de facto leader and has proven he's the best player. I think the other thing I'm kind of looking for is what relationships develop over this time. You have, the Heatles kind of spawned out of Team USA in the late 2000s. It'll be interesting to see who Ant becomes kind of tight with on this team because, there might be those rumors that start floating that, even though Ant has kind of unequivocally said he loves Minnesota, but it'll be interesting to see whether those rumors start of him going somewhere else or who he's recruiting to come to Minnesota after some cap room opens up.
And Reggie, we saw a game with Ant coming off the bench, looked good in that role, and we saw him as a starter, look good in that role as well. Do you think there's any scenario where he's not a starter in Paris?
I mean, for political reasons, I mentioned on Care the other night, like he's got a team full of like former MVPs, NBA champions, and and all that. And I think maybe that kind of maybe wins out, but I do think that Ant should be in the starting lineup. I think you just look at the first 5 minutes of the last game to see like 11 points in 5 minutes, like lighting it up. That move that he put on the guy like was nasty. And I think more so too is just how he's carrying himself. Like he's carrying himself like a Kobe, like a Jordan, like this is my team, like I am the leader here. And it's really cool to see like the evolution of him and how he's just kind of, he's gotten a little bit of a taste. They got the 7-game series win over the Nuggets, and then a little taste of the Western Conference Finals. Like he just has a different like aura about him right now, and I think that's showing on the court as well. He's showing himself to be a leader, and the confidence is always going to be there. And so I think that it would behoove Steve Kerr to put him in the starting lineup. And to Jack's point about Embiid, I don't know that Embiid knows how to play with other superstars. Like it's just so weird, like how he's so clunky out there, where Embiid is like one of the like best scorers in all the league. This is a former MVP of the league. But I mean, it's not just my Lakers bias, but I think Anthony Davis should be in the starting lineup for Team USA. I think he just gives them a better shot at this point. I don't know if it's just like, oh, this is my first one. Like maybe I should have been playing for the French team, or I don't know what it is for Embiid, but like he doesn't look like himself. And maybe I don't know. He's played, in the international game before, but maybe it's just a different type of adjustment for Joel Embiid. But I'm looking forward to seeing Steve Kerr like get his hand forced with Anthony Edwards and having to put him in the starting lineup, because I think he's, as much as he's out on the floor, I think he's going to continue to shine.
Serbia today. As you watch this, the game might be going on. As you listen to this, the game might be going on. I haven't watched any Serbia exhibitions. I don't know what role Jokic is playing, but assuming he's on the floor, that'll be a battle that we can expect. But I do want to get to Andrew Dukowitz after this and hear about his experience covering the Summer League in Vegas. Terrence Shannon starring for the Wolves. That's next after a quick word on the Minnesota Basketball Party. The show is presented by Game Time, which is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball. Makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer you get to first pitch. Killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, lowest price guarantee. I'll tell you about it all. It takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. You can save up to 60% when you buy last minute, not just for sports, but concerts, comedy, theater as well. With the zone deals, you choose the section, Game Time chooses the seats. There are no hidden fees. You get panoramic views from your seat on the app. When you buy the ticket, you know exactly what you're getting. And with the lowest price guarantee, Game Time credits you 110% of the difference if you find different seats. So take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. Get to Target Field. Get in the door for around $50 when the Twins return home. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNBA, LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, to Vegas we go. Andrew Dukowitz is staying cool in his hotel room. It's 1,000,000 degrees outside. The Timberwolves are 2-1 in Summer League play. They lost a tight one to the 76ers, 92-90 the other night, where Rob Dillingham had a chance to be a star late in that game. Couldn't hit the big shot. He's had a slow start to Summer League. Terrence Shannon, though, probably the star, Duke, through these first 3 Summer League games.
Yeah, Terrence Shannon has been kind of everything as advertised. Can score from pretty much anywhere on the court at will. You know, a 5-year senior getting drafted. He looks bigger. He looks stronger. He looks better than most of the players at Summer League. Really, the big question I had with him from doing a couple writing pieces on him was, what's his playmaking going to look like? And unfortunately, his playmaking, that's probably what's going to prevent him from getting minutes. He has a half an assist to turnover ratio right now, 0.5 assists to every 1 turnover. That's just tough. And in summer league, with better competition than college, but lesser than the NBA, he had a 1.1 assist to turnover in college. Half of that's a tough look, but shooting wise, explosiveness to the basket, defensive wise, I mean, he's had a couple phenomenal blocks as well, where he's coming, recovering after getting driven by and just blindsiding them and swatting it off the backboard. I think Dillingham, he's doing what the coaches want. I got the opportunity to talk to the summer league head coach, Chris Hines. And Chris Hines just kind of said, you know what, we're not looking for him to score. We want to see his playmaking. His role off the bench is going to be, there for him regardless of the scoring. So we want to see what he can do playmaking wise and defensively. Defensively, I think the thing that stands out is just his size. He's a small dude, and he really works, which is, to work hard defensively in summer league, that says a lot about a dude's character. I mean, I wouldn't want to work hard in summer league on defense, especially when I have that offensive bag, but he's going to be fine. I think assist wise, he has been playmaking really well. The Wolves are interestingly running their full offense. Again, I got the opportunity to talk to Hines, and Chris Hines had said, we want to be an arm and a leg of the Wolves main roster. So he's running the same sets they would run up with the main team. And Dillingham's been doing that admirably. The other thing I would just say is Daishawn Nix has kind of been my crush of summer league, if you will. I mean, the guy has a plus 14 minimum in all 3 summer league games, including the loss. He's been running the offense really efficiently, and he's really heightened his defensive abilities as well, which as a 6'5" kind of thicker guard is just really impressive, especially for a guy that was sitting on the bench for almost the entirety of last season, watching the Wolves play. He's the inventor of the point celebration, I can confirm. Yup. I think he's been the one that stood out the most to me. Other guy I want to give a little bit of flowers is Jalen Clark, coming off of that injury, 10 steals in 3 games, and he's playing 6th man minutes. He is just, he looks like a free safety out there. He's literally kind of bent over in his stance, watching the offense, and then his ability to just intercept a passing lane and go coast to coast is, if he develops a little bit more offensively and he rebounds from that injury, right, he's going to be a dangerous player in the NBA.
Great insight from Andrew Dukowitz, talking to the head coach as well out there. Reggie, what's caught your eye?
Well, I agree with Andrew there. I think Jalen Clark, you can kind of see the reason why they drafted him last year. And then look, we're talking about a guy who is maybe a lottery pick if he doesn't blow out his Achilles last year. So they get a chance to put him on the shelf for a year, fully rehab that Achilles injury, and now they're letting him loose. And I'm interested to see if he finds his way onto the court for the Timberwolves at all this season. But, defense is one of those things if you have it, you'll find something. I've seen, even going back to those Oklahoma City Thunder teams with Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook, they always had that one guy who was a defender who, couldn't necessarily give you much on the offensive end, but maybe they make up for it because they're on the defensive end, or the Wolves, playing Josh Okogie, for all that, because he's a defender that can help out on the floor, but didn't really give you much offensively. I think he's starting to blossom a little bit more with Phoenix, but it's interesting just to see Jalen Clark just kind of get his legs under him a little bit, no pun intended. But I think that I said last night on the air, if Terrence Shannon turns into who I think he can be, I called it. Just give me my flowers. No, but I'm really enjoying what I'm seeing from him. But I think to Andrew's point, like he's 24. He's got a lot of basketball, in his past 5 years. And he's coming in like these guys are 19, 20, 21, maybe 22 years old. He's 24. Like he's got a little bit more development on some of these other guys. So like he's out there showing what he can do. He's in the bag. And Sam Ekstrom, tough crowd, man. Tough crowd. Let Rob cook. Like I said, he's out there like looking like Sonic out there. Like he's just like darting all over the floor. It's just kind of crazy how electric and how fast he is. And look, he had 14 on Sunday. Like, okay, if you're a guy for optimism, like he's showing some things.
Very fast start that night. Yep.
Okay, give him some love, Sam. Dang.
Hey, I don't want to be a hater. I like the defensive effort. I want to see the ball go in the basket. Ball in basket. Ron Johnson, I know you got some Bronny takes. Let's hear them.
Well, I mean, only thing I was going to say is like the young guys. And so I like what Reggie said, man, it's a tough crowd sometimes. Bronny's out there doing the best he can. He's the 55th overall pick. The 55th overall pick has never, ever, ever gotten media coverage like this. And so it's crazy to put this much pressure on the 55th overall pick. That's like the 4th round kicker. And we're just going to follow the 4th round kicker nonstop. He's going to make the team, but he's not going to be a star. He's just a guy we drafted. Like, let him just play.
Ron, live from the Ozarks, has lost signal.
Clutch
now he's
got
back.
him.
He's back.
That was a mic drop.
Damn, Rich Paul doxed you, Ron?
Cut the connection.
You out? I don't know, man. He might have. Like he is not happy with what I just said. Sorry, Rich Paul. But when you look at what Bronny is doing, when you look at what Rob Dillingham is doing with this team, yes, he's small. Yes, there's some haters out there. I'm paying off the tease though. Jack Boardman told me, because I was talking about Rashad McCants, Gilbert Arenas went off on those guys. Like, dude, y'all are weak-minded for going at Bronny. He's a 55th pick. Like, y'all would never talk about a 55th pick like this, but y'all want to go at it because it's LeBron's son, blah, blah. Y'all weak, blah, blah. And then Brandon Jennings hating, Rashad McCants is hating. And then Jack Boardman said Rashad McCants went out and took his kids take pictures with Bronny. So, like, come on, man. What are we
Brandon
doing
Jennings
here?
kids.
Right, Brandon Jennings kids. Sorry. But yeah, what are we doing here? Like, you can't talk bad about him and then want to get pictures just in case. Just in case he becomes something in 2 or 3 years. Because that's the plan. He wasn't planning. This kid should be in college. We know that for 2 more years. He's going to be in college with the Lakers to let his dad live out his dream. But looking at Rob Dillingham, we saw he can score 14 points. He can go 50% from 3. We saw Terrence Shannon can score as well. I think what the Timberwolves are doing is what all NFL's teams do during preseason. I know you can probably score. If you think about Jordan Addison with the Minnesota Vikings, I know what you can do. But I don't want you to do that. I need you to be in a spot to see what you look like. So when Justin Jefferson is here, you're going to work together. And I think that's what they're doing right now, Rob Dillingham. Yeah, we know you probably can score. You're Sonic the Hedgehog. You can go through people. You can up and under. You're really quick. But Anthony Edwards is on this team. That's not going to be your role with Anthony Edwards on the floor. Now, when Anthony Edwards takes a break and goes and sits down and puts some ice on his knees or heat packs on his back, whatever, yeah, go to work for a little bit because Mike Conley wasn't that guy. But when he's on the floor, we want to see what kind of facilitator you are. Can you run the offense? Can you stay positive? Can you not turn the ball over? Can you play within the game and say, look, I know I might have a shot here, but I'm going to give it to number 5 because he's the guy. And so I think that's what looks good now is that he's able to facilitate the offense. But Terrence Shannon Jr., man, like, I think he's a guy that coming off the bench as a 7th, 8th guy is going to be very productive. Like, he looks strong. He looks confident. He has the size. I think, again, another guy that can, when Anthony Edwards sits down, can actually give some credible minutes and points along with McDaniels, Naz Reid, Cat, Rudy. I mean, this team has a really good chance of going exactly where they went last time with the West Conference Finals. Question is, can Ant train now to have his body ready to do that?
Jack, I know you got a lot of takes. You've watched these games closely, but I want you to start by saying something nice about Leonard Miller because his name hasn't come up yet. He was kind of good against the 76ers, 22 points, as Noah points out in the comments. We haven't been the biggest Leonard Miller fans on this show, but I think we got to give him his flowers.
Yeah, it's tough. I guess that I'm the person for doing that because I might be the lowest on Leonard Miller out of all of us.
I
But
know.
I think Leonard Miller, the way that he's fought on the offensive glass has been just tremendous. And I think when you look at the way that his 3-point shot is very clearly still developing, I think what the Timberwolves want to see from him is his ability to play around the basket, right? He's been playing the 5 as a starter in Summer League, and so a lot of that is going to entail him setting screens up top, playing off the short roll, being able to make kick out passes to the corner or attack off the short roll. And I think that's something that's still very clearly a work in progress. But when he's been in that dunker spot that we see Rudy Gobert in, when he's not setting screens, he's been really productive around the basket, just kind of positioning himself to be an outlet for teammates that are driving the baseline, just to be there for dump off passes and lay it in, and has also just been a hound on the offensive glass last night. I think he had like 6 or 7 offensive rebounds in the loss last night. So I think that's been productive. I've liked the way that he's been a help side rim protector on drivers. I thought that he made a couple of nice blocks in the loss last night as well. So glad to see that eye issue that caused him to leave the first game early is not something that's been hindering him over the next couple of games, which has been a nice sigh of relief for the Timberwolves. But, outside of that, I just think the Timberwolves defensive activity has been tremendous. They've had 58 points off turnovers in these 3 games. I believe my quick math would say that they have 66 fast break points in these 3 games, which is absolutely incredible. Tim Connolly in his end of the season media availability talked about how he wanted this team to play a little bit quicker, be able to play off of stops more, play more in transition. And he's certainly assembled a group that can do that. I mean, when you look at the starting 5, Dacian Nix is probably the worst athlete out of all of them. And he's, a 6'5" running back at 230 pounds who's been tremendous in transition. And so when that's your floor, you're doing something right. And they've all been incredibly active defensively as well. I think Jalen Clark had 7 stocks in that second game. TJ Shannon had 5 in that second game. So when you just see the way that these guys are flying around and helping each other out defensively, I think that's something that's a non-negotiable for a lot of these summer league coaches, is that the offense is kind of a cluster, right? The spacing isn't very good. It's a lot of guys trying to get their own or play roles maybe that they didn't play in college or at their previous stop, but are going to be asked to do, at the next level. And I think the way that these guys have all kind of collectively banded together on that end of the floor and taken a lot of pride in it has been a lot of fun to see, because that's what the identity of the NBA club was last year. And so to see Dacian Nix and Josh Minott and Jalen Clark, and Terrence Shannon too, really get after it on the defensive end of the floor has been fun to watch. And now that the Wolves aren't going to really be in it for the playoffs here of Summer League, I think some fans might check out a little bit, and we might see some of the Timberwolves guys sit these last couple games. But nonetheless, I think outside of the abomination that game was last night, we had, what did we have? We had 75 free throws. We had 67 fouls. We had 45 turnovers collectively between the two teams. One of the worst basketball games I think I've ever watched in that department. But those first 2 games especially were a ton of fun to watch and give you, a good glimpse of kind of what the bright spots are for each of these guys that are going to be on the NBA club in that starting 5.
And Duke spending the last week in Vegas, a little Cirque du Soleil, Penn and Teller. I mean, how you been spending the time?
With the lowest high being 108, I've been hiding in any place that's air conditioned. Literally any place. But no, just watching a lot of hoops. I mean, that's why I came down here. Love basketball. Doesn't matter the team. I've just been watching a lot of hoops. To Jack's point, there was a refs you suck chant from both the 76ers and Timberwolves fans unanimously in last night's game. Never have seen that before, ever.
Gotta love those neutral Vegas crowds. No, that's awesome. Good stuff from Andrew Dukowitz live in Vegas reporting on Summer League. In-season tournament. Speaking of Vegas, Wolves trying to get to Vegas by winning their group of the in-season tournament. The group has been revealed, and we'll discuss that after a very quick pause on the Minnesota Basketball Party. All right, Minnesota basketball party. Please subscribe. Locked On Sports Minnesota. We'd appreciate that. Also, check out Locked On Sports Today and the Big 6 in 60 for a national view on sports from the Locked On Podcast Network. This is the group that the Wolves will be in the in-season tournament come November. Kings, Clippers, Rockets, Blazers, Timberwolves are the 1 seed in that group. So what do we think of the group, and what do we think of the biggest challengers in that group? We start with Ron Johnson.
I mean, honestly, I'm a hater of most teams if they don't have stars. So I think the biggest, personally, just looking at the guard play, I think the biggest test is going to be the Kings. I'm not sure the Clippers, we know kind of what they're doing, and they're trying to put their team, the band, back together, but PG left. I don't know. Like the Clippers are beatable. The Rockets don't seem good to me anymore. The Blazers are beatable. I think the Kings are going to be their toughest test. So I think this is a very winnable thing. I mean, we know the Lakers won the in-season tournament. So do we really want to win the in-season tournament? I don't know. But I'd say the Kings. Sorry, Reggie. I know you guys got to hang that banner up. My bad. But I don't know if the Wolves. I guess it's fun to put, to say you did it. But again, as far as the Kings, I think the Kings are going to be their toughest matches in their group.
Yeah, the Kings add DeRozan. Let's just revert backward to Reggie. Are the Lakers in the group of death? I know there was one Western Conference group that was really tough. Was it the Lakers or was it the other one?
I'm not even gonna lie to you. I have not looked at the Lakers schedule yet. I'm just, they didn't get the pieces that they wanted to get in the offseason, and they're pretty much going to run it back. So I'm not really.
I just checked it. So it's not theirs. It's West C group is Nuggets, Mavs, Pelicans, Warriors, Grizzlies. That's like the toughest one. Lakers, Suns, Thunder, Jazz, Spurs. That could be tough. That could be tough if the Spurs are better. Don't know about the Jazz.
I don't think the Lakers are running it back as in-season tournament champions. I think that's not going to happen. But I do like what the Wolves have with their grouping. I don't expect the Blazers to be good again. They drafted another big to go with their big who doesn't really want to play. He wants to play video games and eat candy. So maybe he'll get 20 and 10 still, just because. Who else is playing? You got Scoot out there still developing. But I look at the Kings, man, and I know last year, I feel like on the basketball party, we talked a lot about the Kings just because they seem like a team that was ascending. And I think maybe they took a little bit of a step back last season, but they still have Fox. They signed DeRozan. It's so weird. It seems like the more production from Harrison Barnes is still just teams are just we don't want him. The Warriors were oh, Kevin Durant, yeah, get rid of Harrison Barnes. And now they're oh, DeMar DeRozan, yeah, get rid of Harrison Barnes. We don't need him. But he's been productive for them. But I do think that they got a really productive player in DeMar DeRozan. Does that mean that they're going deep into the playoffs? I'm not sure, but I do know that should be an incredible challenge for the Timberwolves in that grouping. But I do think the Wolves have, better talent to come out of that.
Sam, yeah, I was going to say, Sam, you were right. Group C is that's the group of death. Because if Ja Morant comes back, we don't know what's going to happen with his rehab. I don't know if you can call it that for guns. But yeah, that's a tough one because the Warriors, my guess, are going to try to get better. You got the Grizzlies, you got the Pelicans, Mavs, Nuggets. But yeah, the Lakers, Reggie, the Suns got exposed by Anthony Edwards. So the Lakers, they got a chance. They got a chance. But yeah. I think the Timberwolves looks like the team to come out the West, in my opinion, out of all these.
Yeah, I don't know what to make of the Clippers. They could be load managing on any given night with that group. Certainly the Kings feel like the threat. That's a team that probably deserved better than their fate last year where they didn't even get a playoff series. But Jack, are we correct in this? The Kings are the top threat?
I don't know. Just to go back one step really quick.
Yeah.
LeBron's going to own the team that's in Vegas. The NBA is going to make sure that LeBron is in Vegas to have a chance to run it back, Reg. So if you want to put your conspiracy cap on, I think that might be that might come to fruition for you.
Tell me more, Jack. Tell me more.
That's where I'll leave it. But I'd like to make an argument for the Rockets, Sam. I can't believe I'm doing this because I think the Rockets have been absolutely pitiful the last few years, and think that they just haven't had the leadership that they need in terms of players in that locker room. But they're certainly talented enough, and I think that top to bottom they may be a more talented team than the Kings. And people forget that they have Steven Adams, that they made that move prior to last season, I believe. And Steven Adams had knee surgery, missed the entire year last year, and should be back, I think, for the start of the year. Not 100% sure on that, but I mean, you have a center rotation of Steven Adams and Alperen Şengün. Certainly is an improvement from what they had last year with Şengün and Jock Landale. And then you're going to have really, really solid guard play in Fred VanVleet and Reed Shepherd, who they drafted at the number 3 spot this year and looks fantastic in summer league.
He's nice.
And then you've got Amin Thompson, another year older, and hopefully they'll be able to get Tari Eason back on the wing, and him and Dylan Brooks is a pretty tough defensive wing combination. And then you can throw Jayshawn Tate in the mix off the bench as another guy that can switch and defend multiple positions. And hopefully Jabari Smith Jr. is another year better at the 4, and hopefully can find a little bit more of that 3-point shot and can be more of a scorer for them, so there's not quite as much of a burden on Jalen Green. And I just think that they've got enough firepower offensively to keep up with Anthony Edwards and Karl Anthony Towns. And the defense is certainly something that they don't have a leg up on the Wolves, but they've got enough pieces where if you catch them on the wrong night, that they could certainly be a team that puts up 125, 130 points and holds you to 110 and comes out with a win that way. So I just think they're a deeper team than Sacramento is if they're fully healthy. I think they have a better coach in Ime Udoka than Sacramento does in Mike Brown. But
I don't stand for Udoka. He did me a long wrong.
Hey, I'm just talking about basketball, my man.
X's and O's.
I'm talking about basketball. So we'll see. I think it's going to be one of those teams, the Rockets or the Kings. I think the Clippers are a joke. I think the Blazers have just they need to pick a direction. I think I don't know why DeAndre is on that team right now. If they've got if they still got Rob Williams III, who's going to be coming back from knee surgery, and now they have Donovan Clingan coming back in there. So they've got some stuff they got to figure out. But it's going to be one of those teams, the Kings or the Rockets. But I think the Wolves will win this pretty handily if they stay healthy.
Yeah, Rockets strike me as kind of last year's Pacers, like a team that wants to prove itself. They were 11th in the West last year. They might really care about this tournament, like more than you should maybe, and they'll probably show up for these games pretty strongly. So I like that take from Jack. In closing today, I know we didn't get Duke's take on it. Andrew Dukowitz.
I mean, I wish I went before Jack because that was my take. The Rockets were 41-41 last season. I think they have a lot more depth. I think scoring wise, they have 6 or 7 guys that can score on any night. Defensively, I mean, like Jack said, they're not the best defensive team, but when you have Dylan Brooks on it, at least you can stop like one wing defender. If Jabari Smith Jr. turns into a big 3-and-D guy, that would be huge for him. But I honestly like the Rockets more than the Kings too. The Kings, you look at it and they De'Aaron Fox, Malik Monk, they're going to be hoping Keegan Murray takes a massive step. DeMar DeRozan, I mean, he's one of my all-time favorite players, but he's getting into his mid to upper 30s here. That's not a great spot for a off-the-dribble 2-guard. And then, I mean, Sabonis is what Sabonis is. He's a phenomenal kind of small center. I like the Rockets quite a bit more than the Kings this year, just from that depth standpoint. And they have a lot of young guys that are going to want to prove something, Reed Shepherd included. So like everyone else on the panel, I think the Wolves have it kind of in the bag, but the Rockets are going to be a lot of fun. They're going to be a league pass team this year.
Yeah, it's hard to win your group in the in-season tournament, though. I mean, you pretty much have to run the table or you run the risk of getting tie-breaked which happened to the Wolves last year when they had that weird tiebreaker scenario. So you do need to go minimum 3-1, maybe 4-0 to win that baby. And yeah, the Wolves will have a couple tough games, getting some Rockets love here from the group. In closing, I've got a FanDuel scenario for y'all. Ron Johnson, if you're driving back through Iowa on the way back home from the Ozarks, you can place this bet once we come to a consensus. So I've got 3 FanDuel bets that are active right now involving the Timberwolves. Anthony Edwards to win the MVP, plus 1,200. Rudy Gobert to win the Defensive Player of the Year, plus 1,200. Rob Dillingham, just Rookie of the Year, plus 1,500. Which bet are you placing? Which would be the smartest bet on FanDuel? Reggie.
Give me Ant all day. I just talked about how he's carrying himself at a different level, and he's talking about being the number 1 option on Team USA. Anybody with that type of confidence and how they went out last year in the Western Conference Finals as well, like I think he's out here gonna be going for blood, and I'm taking that bet all day, every day.
Let's go reverse to Duke.
I would do Gobert Defensive Player of the Year. For Ant to win MVP, he's going to have to outshine a Giannis on a revenge tour, Nikola Jokic going for history. There's just a lot of variable there, whereas Defensive Player of the Year, Wembanyama is coming for that crown, but he, injuries happen. He's really the only person standing in Gobert's way from winning another Defensive Player of the Year. I'd put my money on that.
I totally agree with Duke. You're a 1 Wemby injury away from Gobert being a minus 150 favorite.
But what about Mikal Bridges with Tibbs?
His knee's gonna be hurt. His knees will be hurt. I know that.
Depends how much ice they have in New York.
Jack?
I'm gonna go with Rory McIlroy plus wrong sport. I'm gonna go with Rudy for those exact same reasons. I just think that it is so clear to me that Victor Wembanyama is going to be the greatest defensive player that the NBA has ever seen, and is already probably the best defensive player in the NBA when you think about everything that he's able to do. And there's going to be an incredibly obvious bias towards him just because all the highlights and everything he does is insane. And like objectively, what he does for that defense is probably, he's probably doing more for that defense than Rudy is doing for the Wolves defense. When you think about the fact that the Wolves also have Jaden McDaniels and Anthony Edwards, and then Carl and Nas doing a halfway decent job protecting the rim as well. But yeah, I mean, it's the exact same thing there. I think if Wemby misses 15 games, the Spurs take a step back or, something like that, it's Rudy right there. And I just don't see too many other competitors. Like, I think you could make a case for Bam Adebayo, but I don't think the Heat are going to be a good enough defensive team. I think you could say the same for Jaren Jackson Jr. with the Grizzlies. If they're back to being a team that's a defensive first team and is a top 5, top 7 defense in the league. But then again, you have Zach Edey there, and Zach Edey might eat some of that, might eat some of that love. So yeah, I'd go with Rudy.
Zach Edey's the favorite to be Rookie of the Year, by the way, plus 600. Ron.
Yeah, I'm going Rudy. I just think everybody hit the nail on the head. It's the simplest thing right now. He already won one. The way this team focuses on defense, funneling the defense, Rudy Gobert is a great help defender. He is getting a little older, so he doesn't get off the ground like he used to, but he's still a key guy because defensive rebounds are in there as well, and he does a great job cleaning up the glass. And so I think he is a favorite to win it. I think Ant, for the same reasons, he has too much to overcome to win it, and he hasn't gained the love yet. Like, he loves himself, but the media doesn't love him just yet. Like, he's getting there, and he's making the plays, he's making it, but like, he's got to wait for like maybe a couple years for Joker and them, those guys to get older, maybe for them to finally get. And Ant still got to be putting this team in the Western Conference Finals. But a lot of people are always going to say like he hasn't won yet. How can we give him an MVP? He hasn't won a championship yet. And but neither has Joel Embiid. So come on now. But I know that's always going to be the knock on him because they want him to be Michael Jordan and they want him to win a final, or go to a final at least. And so I think it's Joker. I think it's Joker all day, or Joker. Sorry, what's his name?
Gobert.
Gobert all day. But I will say Wemby is proof that aliens do exist because we've never seen any birth records for him. Standing next to Gobert, he made Gobert look 6'8". Like that is nuts that he made. And then he kneeled down and scrunched down and still was 7 feet tall. Like that is nuts. Like he is an alien. He can shoot the ball at 7'4". He can handle the ball and he blocks like 3-pointers. Like I've never seen a guy jump that high to be able to block a 3-pointer. Like that is nuts. Like, I mean, it's absolutely nuts. So yeah, I think he's the heir apparent to being the next great. But yeah, he also is very thin. So he's got to, I don't know what he's got to stay away from some. I'm not even to hate on any of these drugs out there people are taking. He's got to stay away from some of the diet stuff and the workout stuff some of these people take. He's got to just beef and steak and shrimp and chicken nonstop to get a little bit of weight and bulk to that body. And I think he'll go down in history as one of the greatest if he stays healthy. If those knees start failing him, my goodness, he's in trouble.
Yeah.
Sam, I think to Ron's point too, about Ant not getting the national love. I was talking to Mark Spears and he was just like, man, like you just want to see Ant take it to another level. Like when Kobe got down, like he was like, give me the ball, let me take it. This is my team now. It's about to go down. And he said that Ant still needs to get there. I think what could help him is having a very strong Olympics where he does kind of distinguish himself as an alpha. And that may go a long way to his public perception that could win him an MVP if he somehow gets that scoring average up to about 30 a game.
Hey, Reggie, did you ever see the Kobe Bryant Nike commercial with him and Kanye? That's what that feels like. Like Kobe talking to Kanye feels like Anthony Edwards talking to the media. Like, like, man, I just dunked on the dude. It dislocated my finger. More. I just hit a game-winning 3 step back on KD and D Book and beat him. More. He's like, but how much more do you want from me? You're welcome. Like that's what I mean, I don't know if they want Anthony Edwards to like jump over the backboard at some point or jump over a car maybe.
Jump
maybe
over Wemby.
He's got to do what Jason Tatum did and just watch everything those stars did and then regurgitate and do it. Because that's all Jason Tatum did. He watched everybody's celebration and he did it. He was Kevin Garnett, Kobe, Kanye, and Steph Curry all in one like clip. Like I don't know how Jason Tatum did it, but he is proof of why Drake is what Drake is. Collab king. He's the king of collabs.
That's it for us on the Minnesota Basketball Party today. Great stuff from our panel. Jack Borman, Andrew Dukowitz, Reggie Wilson, Ron Johnson. I'm Sam Ekstrom. We're here every Wednesday talking Wolves. We'll be back next week for plenty more here on Locked On Sports Minnesota, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.